This is Frederick Meekins of the Issachar Apologetics Research Institute. Here at the beginning of the 21st century, apologetics as an evangelistic endeavor in intellectual theological outreach finds itself in something of a paradox. When the West thought of itself in terms of resting on broadly Judeo-Christian assumptions, the discipline was not as desperately needed, while most within the church at least knew of the field's existence as a subject. At the time, the less practically inclined among the membership dabbled in the subject by contemplating abstract questions and topics. However, as society moves away from biblical assumptions and the church finds itself in desperate need of the discipline to prevent both individuals and nations from sliding into the abyss, it seems very few even know what apologetics is, and those that do are often contemptuously dismissive of this kind of scholastic undertaking in favor of a more pietistic or even mystical approach to the Christian faith. In the anthology Passionate Conviction, Contemporary Discourses on Christian Apologetics, Paul Copan and William Legg Craig have assembled a number of essays rallying the faithful as to why apologetics is necessary in tackling head-on a number of the greatest challenges to the Christian faith prevalent in the world today. Renowned futurist Alvin Toffler has remarked that the changes sweeping over society are akin to waves that can be so unsettling that they leave those they have rolled over in a state of shock, while leaving those still riding the crests of previous conceptual epochs dumbfounded as to how to address the changing situations around them. Particularly hard hit has been the humanities, of which the areas of study such as philosophy, religion, and thus ultimately apologetics happen to be a part of. Unlike previous eras of world history in which the average individual often dealt with a limited space in terms of both mental and physical geography, today even the poorest resident of the 21st century West finds himself bombarded constantly with opposing worldviews. These come at us in the forms of an omnipresent media establishment, the swarms of people pouring over our borders from every conceivable corner of the globe, and the shocking number of our own countrymen willing to abandon the worldview this civilization was built upon in favor of any number of alternatives that turn out to be less than solid upon closer inspection. It is said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The confusion characterizing the spiritual scene today would not have come about unless there had been a widespread abandonment of what Francis Schaeffer termed the Christian consensus, what C.S. Lewis referred to as mere Christianity, and what those wanting to cast the most ecumenical net possible might characterize as the Judeo-Christian belief system. G.K. Chesterton is credited with observing that the problem that arises when we abandon orthodox theology is not that we won't believe in anything, but that we will believe in anything. The pillar or keystone of Christianity, setting it apart from all other religions and philosophies, is that Jesus, as the only begotten Son of God and second person of the Trinity, came to earth by being born of the Virgin Mary to live the sinless life no man could, and to die on the cross as payment for our sins, and to rise from the dead so that all that believe in him might spend eternity with God in heaven. This is what is known as the gospel message. All excursions into error, no matter how seemingly ancient or modern, begin as either an outright denial of or failure to recognize these fundamental truths. This can be seen in terms of both popular and academic culture, In terms of his own theory of apologetics, Ravi Zacharias has postulated that there is a highest refined level of philosophy that eventually filters downward to the general population in the form of mass media and entertainment. This is true of other academic humanities as well, and is not a phenomena confined solely to technical philosophy. The first decade of the 21st century, renowned primarily for its advancements in electronic entertainment, experienced a publishing phenomenon that gripped the public imagination like few things else in the form of a novel titled The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Underlying the suspense of this thriller is the conjecture that Jesus was not divinity in human form, but rather simply an outstanding human teacher, no different than anyone else, but who was elevated to Godhead for political purposes at the Council of Nicaea. Provocative as those heresies might be, what really set the book off like wildfire was the assertion that among those otherwise mundane things Jesus did as an ordinary human being was to father a child with Mary Magdalene. It was through this lineage, rather than through any organizational church structure, that true Christian teaching was passed down through history through the intermarriage of Christ's descendants with the royal houses of Europe, especially the Merovingians of France. Of these astounding claims and their alleged justification, Charles Quarles writes in the essay Revisionist Views About Jesus in Passionate Conviction, quote, "This fact, coupled with the enormous popularity of the book in the film, require thoughtful believers to respond intelligently to the claims of the code." End quote. It seems odd that so many, both Christian and non-Christian alike, would allow a popular novel to either so shake their faith or to allow it to justify what they already believe. Quarles writes, quote, "Those whose faith is shaken by Dan Brown's claims lose their faith far too quickly. If they will take the time to investigate Brown's claims, they will find that his statements about biblical and historical Christianity are a comedy of errors and lack historical evidence." End quote. The thing of it is, though, Christianity has been maligned and discredited for so long in the halls of higher learning that the average person thinks such radical skepticism is the default position of the open, educated mind. This is Frederick Meekins.